Baby couldn't stop crying. Doctors spotted the heartbreaking reason in her mouth, but what doctors found left everyone shocked. "Shh, it's okay, baby," Darian cooed, scooping up her 10-month-old daughter. But as she cradled her close, a chill ran down her spine. This wasn't Bella's usual fussiness. Something was wrong. Darian's husband, Chandler, stirred beside her. "Everything all right?" he mumbled, voice thick with sleep. "I don't know," Darian whispered, her worry mounting as Bella continued to wail. "She won't stop crying. I'm not sure why, but I think it's different this time." She gently bounced Bella in her arms, trying every soothing technique she'd learned over the past 10 months. She hummed softly, stroked her back, and even tried offering her her favorite pacifier. Nothing seemed to work. The clock on the nightstand read 3:47 a.m., its red digits a stark reminder of the long night ahead. Chandler sat up, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. "Let me take her for a bit," he offered, reaching out for their daughter. But as soon as Bella left Darian's arms, her cries intensified. "I think she might be running a fever," Darian said, placing a hand on Bella's forehead. "She feels a bit warm." Chandler fumbled in the bedside drawer for the thermometer. After a moment of struggling to get an accurate reading from their squirming daughter, he frowned. 37.8 degrees Celsius. It's slightly elevated, but not too concerning. As the first rays of sunlight began to filter through the curtains, Darian carried Bella to the changing table, desperate to find the source of her distress. She gently laid her down, her hands trembling slightly as she unfastened her onesie. That's when she saw it. As Bella opened her mouth to let out another cry, Darian's heart nearly stopped. There, in the soft pink roof of her baby's mouth, was something that shouldn't be there. Something that made her blood run cold. "Chandler!" she screamed, her voice cracking with panic. "Come quick! There's something in Bella's mouth." Chandler bolted from the bed, nearly tripping over the rug in his haste. "What? What is it?" he asked, fear evident in his voice as he joined Darian on at the changing table. Little did Darian know, this moment would mark the beginning of a harrowing journey, one that would test her faith, challenge her instincts as a mother, and ultimately reveal an astonishing truth that no one could have predicted. But it wasn't the first time that Bella had given them cause for concern. Her birth had already been a fight for life. At just 32 weeks, Bella arrived prematurely, and from the very start, the DePreta family found themselves in an unexpected battle. The contractions came suddenly, and Darian barely had time to reach the hospital before Bella was born, tiny but fierce. Before they rushed out the door, Chandler quickly called Darian's parents to come stay with their twins, Tom and James. With everything happening so fast, there was no time to waste. The doctors worked quickly, their voices sharp, as they rushed her to the neonatal unit. Despite the chaos, Darian caught a glimpse of Bella's delicate hand as it curled instinctively towards her mouth, the first sign of her curious nature. In the NICU, Bella struggled to breathe, her tiny body fighting to adjust to the world outside the womb. But even as she fought for every breath, there was something endearing about how her tiny fingers would dart towards her mouth. It was as if she was determined to understand this strange, new world by tasting everything she could. Darian would watch, heart aching, as Bella tried to suck on her tiny thumb through the clear walls of the incubator, her little hands always seeking out the comfort of something to grasp. Despite the doctor's efforts, Bella's condition grew critical. The machines monitoring her heart rate beeped frantically, and Darian felt her world crack under the pressure. She held Bella's hand through the incubator's opening, praying for her to hang on. She whispered, "Stay strong, baby girl. I need you. We all do." It was the longest night of their lives. Yet through all the pain and worry, there was Bella. Curious, even in the face of overwhelming uncertainty. It was that same curiosity that kept her fighting, even when things seemed impossible. She spent her first week of life in the neonatal unit, her tiny body fighting to adapt to the world outside the womb. Those 7 days were the longest of Darian and Chandler's lives. They took turns sitting vigil by Bella's incubator, whispering words of encouragement and love to their youngest child. As Bella slowly gained strength and began to breathe more easily, she was discharged from the hospital. Darian stepped back from her teaching job to focus on her children, knowing the toll Bella's early birth had taken on her health. Chandler worked tirelessly in his construction business, juggling long hours to ensure their family had everything they needed. Even with the stress of their demanding lives, Darian cherished the quiet moments with her children, especially Bella, whose resilience amazed her every day. Darian and Chandler watched as their daughter grew into her personality. She would never stop reaching for something to explore, always seeking the world through the touch and taste of her surroundings. It wasn't just her thumb anymore. It was anything within her reach, as if the world was a puzzle she was determined to solve. It was a trait that grew stronger as she got older. A desire to know, to explore, and to understand things, big and small. Bella's inquisitiveness was endearing, but it also led to some surprising moments. Ones that months later would reveal a mystery her family never expected. For 10 months, life settled into a comfortable rhythm. The DePreta home, nestled in a quiet gated community, was filled with the joyful chaos of raising 3 children under the age of 3. Mornings were a whirlwind of diaper changes, breakfast battles, and trying to get everyone dressed. Afternoons were spent at the local park or playgroup, with Darian juggling Bella on her hip while keeping an eye on the twins as they explored the world around them. Bella, despite her rough start, blossomed into a happy, healthy baby. Her infectious laugh and bright eyes quickly made her the apple of everyone's eye. She was an easygoing child, content to watch her brothers play and always ready with a gummy smile for anyone who spoke to her. But beneath the surface of this picture-perfect family life, an unseen threat was lurking. As Bella approached her first birthday, subtle changes began to occur. The once content baby became increasingly fussy, her cries more frequent and intense. Darian and Chandler, attributing it to teething or a phase, did their best to comfort their youngest daughter. At first, it was just small things. Bella seemed more irritable during feedings, and her naps became shorter and more fitful. Chandler noticed she was drooling more than usual and often had her fingers in her mouth. "She must be teething," he told Darian one evening as they collapsed into the sofa after finally getting all 3 children to sleep. "The twins were never this fussy, though." Darian nodded. "Every baby's different, love. Remember what the health visitor said? She'll get through it in her own time." But as the days passed, Bella's discomfort seemed to increase. She began refusing her favorite foods and waking multiple times during the night. Darian and Chandler took turns pacing the floor with her, trying everything from teething gels to gentle massage to soothe their distressed daughter. "Chandler, look!" she cried, as her husband rushed to her side. There's a hole in her mouth." Chandler leaned in, squinting in the early morning light. "What? That can't be right," he muttered, reaching for his phone to use as a flashlight. As the beam illuminated Bella's mouth, both parents gasped. There, on the roof of their baby's mouth, was a distinct, round, dark mark. "Oh my God!" Darian whispered, her voice trembling. "How did we not notice this before? What kind of parents are we?" The guilt and fear crashed over them in waves. Bella, sensing her parents' distress, began to wail even louder. Her cries seemed to snap Darian and Chandler into action. "We need to get her to the hospital, now," Chandler said, already reaching for his keys. Darian nodded, her mind racing. "What about the twins? We can't leave them alone." "I'll call my mum," Chandler said, already dialing. "She can watch them while we take Bella in." The next few hours passed in a blur. Chandler's mother arrived, bleary-eyed but concerned, as Darian hurriedly explained the situation while throwing essentials into a diaper bag. The frantic drive to the hospital was filled with tense silence, broken only by Bella's continued fussing. As they sped towards the nearest emergency room, Darian held Bella close, her mind conjuring up every worst-case scenario. "What if it's some kind of infection? Or a birth defect we somehow missed?" she whispered, more to herself than to Chandler, her heart heavy with the fear of discovering the heartbreaking reason behind Bella's sudden distress. Chandler gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles white. "Let's not jump to conclusions," he said, trying to sound calm despite the fear evident in his voice. "The doctors will know what to do." They rushed through the emergency room doors, Darian cradling Bella protectively against her chest. The triage nurse listened to their frantic explanation, her experienced eyes assessing the situation quickly. "I understand you're worried," she said gently, leading them to an examination room. "Let's get the doctor to take a look." The agonizing wait as nurses assured them a specialist was on the way felt like an eternity. Darian paced the small room, tears streaming down her face. "What if it's serious? What if we failed her somehow?" she kept repeating, her mind racing with worst-case scenarios. Chandler tried to remain calm, but his trembling hands betrayed his own fear. He held Bella close, whispering soothing words to his daughter, all the while praying silently for a miracle. "It's going to be okay, sweetheart," he murmured, more to convince himself than Bella. "The doctors will figure this out." Finally, a doctor approached. Her calm demeanor did little to quell the parents' anxiety as she asked to examine Bella. Darian and Chandler watched, holding their breath, as the doctor peered into their baby's mouth. 25 seconds passed. It felt like an eternity. Then unexpectedly, the doctor's serious expression melted into a gentle smile. "Mr. and Mrs. DePreta," she said, her voice warm and reassuring. "I have good news. There's no hole in Bella's mouth." Darian blinked, confusion replacing fear. "But we saw it. How can that be?" The doctor's smile widened as she held up something small between her fingers. What you saw was this, a sticker stuck to the roof of Bella's mouth. For a moment, silence reigned. Then, as the reality of the situation sank in, a wave of emotions washed over the room. Relief, disbelief, and finally, laughter. Darian collapsed into a nearby chair, tears of joy replacing those of fear. Chandler let out a shaky laugh, hugging Bella close. The tension that had gripped them for hours dissipated in an instant, replaced by an overwhelming sense of gratitude. "A sticker?" Darian repeated, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. "We rushed here. For a sticker." The doctor patted her shoulder gently. "You did exactly what good parents should do. You noticed something unusual and sought help immediately. That's commendable." As the initial shock wore off, Darian and Chandler found themselves recounting the morning's events to the amused but understanding hospital staff. The story of the baby with the mouth hole, that turned out to be a harmless sticker, quickly became the talk of the emergency room. How on earth did a sticker end up in her mouth? Chandler wondered aloud, still processing the absurdity of the situation. Darian shook her head, a rueful smile on her face. "The twins were playing with stickers a few days ago. I thought I'd cleaned them all up, but I guess one must have escaped." The doctor chuckled. "You'd be surprised how often we see things like this. Babies are incredibly curious and can get into the most unexpected situations." Leaving the hospital, Darian and Chandler felt a mix of relief and lingering embarrassment. "I guess we should call everyone and let them know Bella's okay," Darian said, already dreading the explanation she'd have to give. Chandler squeezed her hand. "Hey, we may have overreacted, but we did it out of love. That's what matters." As they drove home, Bella now peacefully sleeping in her car seat, Darian and Chandler reflected on the day's events. The fear they had felt was real, as was the love that had driven them to act so quickly. They realized that parenting was as much about facing fears and uncertainties as it was about celebrating joys and milestones. Have you ever experienced a moment of parental panic that turned into an unexpected lesson? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to join us for more exciting stories like this.